Welcome back, everyone. My name is Jacob. Thank you for joining me. This is part two of the hunting map application review, where we are taking a hard look at the various or some of the top hunting map applications that are on your phone, and we're evaluating them for their value and versatility, and looking at the layers, the tools, some of the other features that each of them offer, and putting a rating against that. Really trying to figure out which ones might be a good fit for me or for you based on your particular needs. If you haven't looked at the first video where we look at the desktop versions of these applications, I would encourage you to do so. And what we did was we looked at OnX Hunt, BaseMap, GoHunt, HuntStand, HuntWise. We looked at their desktop applications. Spartan Forge does not have a desktop application for their hunting map tool, so we weren't able to look at that. And what I did was I created a spreadsheet. It's several pages in length, and it's really looking at in-depth aspects of these tools and put a rating on them. And I would encourage you, if you haven't done so, go to my Instagram feed. It's J Coons Hunts, J_Coons, COONS_Hunts, and you can get that for free. Just go to my link tree in my profile, and you can get this, and it'll help you actually if you want to watch the video. If you don't even want to watch the videos at full length, if you just want to look at this for what it is and sort of evaluate it that way. But ultimately, what we're going to do now is pivot from the obviously from the desktop, which we did in video one, and look at the handheld versions of the mapping applications, and really get a sense of what tools that they offer in your hand when you're in the field, when you're actually hunting, or if you're, maybe you are doing some scouting, remote scouting, and you want to access some of the tools on your phone. A lot of times what is available on the desktop is different than what's on your phone application. And so that'll come through in this next video. At the end of this video, I will have a final score for each of the applications, and I'll give my final thoughts on each application. And I'll try to be very fair. Throughout this whole process, I've tried to be very fair to each of the applications, because I know there are people behind each of these programs that are working really hard to provide value for you and I. And so if sometimes the tool wasn't as intuitive as it could be, I tried to spend additional time with it to really try to figure it out. A lot of times they didn't have videos, even though I feel like they should, on their YouTube platform to show and highlight certain aspects of these tools and how to really use them. But even if that wasn't the case, I really tried to give it to my best try to understand some of these resources that they've put on there, to be fair and to give them a fair rating. Because again, I'm not trying to be overly critical of the platforms. I just want to provide insight and perspective, in my opinion, on which of these fit my needs, and hopefully provide value to you. So with that, let's pivot to the handheld versions, and we'll take a look at some of the pros and the cons and some of the tools and layers that each of them offer. Evaluation and review of these hunt maps, and there is variability. I mean, on the surface, it might seem like a hunting map app is a hunting map app, but there is variability, and as you can see, some of them have offered differences in terms of the map style that you download to your phone, or the 3D, the ability to tilt the handheld 3D map. We're going to talk about the layers of note and the layer rating. Also going to do the same thing with some of the tools of note for each of the apps. And again, there's a lot of variability here. So we'll start with BaseMap, and from the get-go, you're going to see that I start to mess around with the rangefinder tool. Neat tool if you have identified an object or something that you're going to stalk, or maybe a elk shed that you want to get to, and helps you set your bearing. There's also a tool called the remote marker, and you're gonna see that here in a second. And so again, I've to use my rangefinder, found something 150 yards away, and I want to set my bearing. I can use this to help me mark that accordingly. And then you'll see here I'm going to mess around with the waypoint a little bit, and we'll change it. I've got it set to a bike, and I'll change it here in a little bit. And so from a layering standpoint, I gave BaseMap a 7 out of a possible 10. They've got a wide range of layers. Here from the waypoints, you can see a lot of balance here. I gave them a 9. And when you click on that waypoint, you can actually see the weather here. And apologize for the speed on that, but you can see you can pull in a lot of weather data when you set your waypoint, which I think is one of the cons, and I think something that they need to sort of amplify and make more aware in the platform. There's no folders with BaseMap, and it's really sort of a bare bones application. It's $34.99, and it gives you, but it is versatile. It gives you all the things that you need in the east and in the west. So it does well for most hunters. Here I'm looking at the download map capability. Eventually we'll get out of this and take a look at the 3D capability. And here you'll be able to see the limited tilt of BaseMap. I mean, you can see it's got great 3D detail, but you just can't sort of get down any lower to examine, to sort of fly through an area. I'm going to fast forward this just a little bit. And we're going to see some of the layers. It's going to have all sorts of different layers for east and western states. You see WMAs, you'll see all sorts of different species, timber cuts, wildfires, points of interest, different layers for lakes. Some of this we have seen on the desktop version, so it's not new. Lots of topo layers. And then the global rescue tool, which is, I think, interesting. So that really concludes our examination of BaseMap and the handheld version of the application. Now we're going to take a look at GoHunt, and you'll see some of the detail here. From a layering standpoint, I gave GoHunt a 6. It's a very basic layers. It's even more stripped down of an application than BaseMap was. It does have full tilt. You'll see that soon here with the map. From a waypoint variety, I gave GoHunt a 7. It has very little eastern related waypoints. Here where you can see the full tilt of the 3D mapping. It does have hunt folders, which can be helpful. And then the tool rating, which you'll see here, there really is a lack of tools on the handheld application, but I gave it a 5. There's just a lack of weather information. I mean, with some of these apps, you'll see moon phase and wind, and there's just none of that here. There's a lack of topo options, which is the reason why I gave it such a low score. But here you see the hybrid layer, and we'll fast forward just a little bit. You can see the topo layer, but it's just the one topo layer. We'll take a look at the waypoints. I mentioned limited eastern waypoints. Here's the rangefinder tool. It is one of the few tools on the handheld app. And then here's some of your layering for each of the respective states. And it's got some, solid layers. You see wildfires there, roads and trails, water. Wildfires go back to 2010. But again, it's just nothing that sort of stands out, above the pack. It's sort of, again, a very stripped down version of an application. So we will move on to HuntStand, and I will get this playing, and you'll see. We'll take a look at the detail on the bottom right hand side. The red, you see a 5 in the red. That's the wind tool, and that's there constantly. And that red is your scent cone, and I like that. It's a nice tool. There's also a weather layer that has snow and precip information. The monthly satellite pick, we will see that. And so from a layer standpoint, I gave HuntStand an 8. From a waypoint variety, I gave it a 5 because, as you can see here, it's all Eastern related waypoints. There's no Western game related waypoints. No wallows, no elk, no wolves, none of that stuff. Here is here's the tool that they have. You can see sort of your hunt zone, and it shows your scent cone. These are some of the layers, and I think what we're going to do here is switch to 3D mode, and you'll see the full tilt capability of HuntStand in the 3D mode, which I really, really like. Some of the cons is that the units and zones for, states are just not, there's no overlay. You have to click on a particular area to find out what unit or zone it's in for a particular species. And the map download that you'll see later here, it's like a picture. It's not even it's static. It's not dynamic. So really disappointed in those aspects of HuntStand. It has some real holes. Here, though, is where HuntStand has a real value offering with the monthly satellite pictures. You can see this is July of 2022. I'm going to change it to a different month. And you can use this to find a water source, for example, if you're hunting mule deer or elk. So I really like this. I wish other apps had this. I gave HuntStand a good rating because of some of the layers that it does offer. We're going to switch to tree cover here, and I'm going to fast forward a bit just to you can see sort of a hybrid, some other topo layers. There's a lot of layers that you can mess with. We're going to take a look at the weather. This is the current. You hit 3-day and then 3-day charts, and then 5-day, and then you can there's the moon phase and overhead and underfoot. Some of us whitetail hunters geek out about that stuff. There's stand reservations that you can make. There's a lot of tools here. Here's the map. This is the download map, and this is really disappointing. You can see that it's just a picture, and it's not dynamic. I can't adjust it and zoom in, zoom out. Really disappointed with that. And I think that really concludes the examination. They do have a feed here with videos and some other information. It looks like there's a HuntStand podcast. So that concludes our eval of the HuntStand handheld application. Let's move into HuntWise. With HuntWise, you see that we're going to zoom into the 2D. The layering I gave HuntWise was a 9 out of 10. Very, really, HuntWise and OnX scored the highest in terms of layers. From a waypoint variety, I gave them an 8. There's an Eastern emphasis with a Western mix. From a tool rating, I gave them a 7, which is it wasn't as strong as HuntStand, but it was very solid. And so here you see some of the layers that you can choose from, an incredibly wide variety of layers. And this is one of the reasons why they got such a high rating. And I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. It looks like I'm going to go into 3D mode, and this is a beta. So you can see the 3D mode is kind of interesting, and it's very different than the other platforms. It's not easy to manipulate. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't easy to manipulate, but then you move it into this augmented reality form. So you focus on a flat spot in your house or wherever, and then it pulls up, and then you can really manipulate it quite a bit more. And you see, it's interesting, and I'll give HuntWise credit for trying something different. And I think maybe once they get out of the beta, it'll be really unique. So we're going to fast forward a little bit here. We're looking at HuntCast, which is really, it's part weather with a lot of detail, which I really, really like. And it's also has hunt, it sort of has a hunt predictive component to it. You can see a lot of different species are listed there. I'd love to know what those inputs are for bear or elk, or how it's different than whitetail. Because again, this seems like a whitetail centric app, but you keep finding more and more evidence that it's built for somebody in the East and the West. It gets very detailed in terms of major factors and minor factors in terms of the storm front or moon events or rut intensity and temperature. Here they offer discounts with different partners. There is a social media feed of sorts. And then I mentioned the waypoints or the markers, and I gave them a high score for that because they do have such variability. And that really concludes our examination of the HuntWise handheld version. Again, this isn't exhaustive in nature. It's just trying to give you an idea of the flavor of each of these applications. So OnX, I will go ahead and start that. It has a wind and weather tool I really like. It's sort of new, I think. It has a really robust list of layers. I gave them a 9, as I mentioned earlier. Them and HuntWise have as many layers, or the most layers of any of the applications. You see great detail. We switch it into 3D. It doesn't go full tilt, which sort of dings it a little bit. We're going to fast forward a little bit. I'm sure a lot of you all have experience with OnX. You see the satellite, hybrid, and topo. So it's really missing additional topo layers. Sort of a knock against it in the layer department. But then you see each state has a robust list of layers, whether it's an eastern or a western state. And so I mentioned the layer rating. I don't know if I mentioned the waypoint rating for OnX was a 9. The tool rating was a 7. So it scored really, really well. I mean, here's the wind tool that I mentioned earlier. Let's see if we can get that up. There we go. The wind calendar, which I think is a nice tool really for anybody, because it's you can't beat a deer or an elk's nose, and we have to be cognizant of the predominant wind. Yeah, so I think this about wraps it up. There are folders that you can use to organize your data. You can see the layers. There's crop layers. There's different tree layers. Again, you can't go wrong if you enjoy the different layers. OnX offers quite a bit of value in that regard. Our last handheld examination is Spartan Forge, and I'll just we'll go through this quickly. The bottom left, you see there's a constant wind marker. The wind is coming out of the west at 5 miles an hour. I like that. That's a nice feature. You can see it's got decent detail. It does not have 3D. We've talked about that. I think that's something that they're supposedly working on. You can switch to satellite, hybrid, and then topo. The hybrid was not great. You can see the image there. I switched to topo, and that's fine. I prefer more topo layers than just one. I tried to download a map, and you can see you can go low or high res. Could not get a map to download. Don't know if it was because I signed up for the 14-day free trial or what, but could not download a map. Here you see the Intel button, and this Spartan Forge started with the idea of using collared deer data and creating a predictive model out of that. And I think that's interesting. It's just not my thing. I prefer weather, so it does have weather and barometric pressure. It has other moon phase data. I like this windrows that I mentioned earlier. Nice tool. You can, I think that's sort of a differentiator. You can see it does have information on each state, public land, number of hunters. I don't really care. I don't know how important that information is. The waypoints. I mean, and I'll just give you some scoring here. From a layer standpoint, I gave Spartan Forge a 5. The waypoints, I gave it a 7. That's out of 10. It does have a good balance of waypoints. And the tool rating, I gave a 6. Just not enough tools to compete with the big dogs. From the journal is a neat tool. Here's a pic of some fawns I uploaded, and it pulls that data into. You can see the wind, humidity, and the pressure, and so you get enough trail camera pics of a particular buck, and that's that can be really useful information in terms of patterning. But all said, it just doesn't have the differentiators to really, or even enough robust tools to keep up with all of the other platforms out there. So, and we're going to pivot now. I'm going to talk about the value rating, the versatility rating, and the final scoring, and ultimately my final thoughts. And we will pivot out of this, and we'll close up part 2 of, and ultimately this entire HuntMap application review process. So let's go ahead and wrap all of this up. You had a chance to see in the first video the desktop versions of these popular hunting map applications. And in this video, we had a chance to review the HuntMap applications on our handheld. And during the course of all this, I've shared my thoughts, pros and cons, some of the ratings, and I hope you've taken some time to download my cheat sheet. It's actually 5 pages long, and it has comparative notes, my thoughts, of course the ratings, and it's just a great resource. If you really didn't even want to watch all the videos, you just pull it down and just use this. But what I'm going to do now is start from the bottom and go up, and I'm going to share the value rating, the versatility rating, and then the overall final score of each of the applications. And so, starting at the bottom at number 6 is Spartan Forge. And the value rating that they received was a 4. The versatility rating was a 4. And the final score out of a total of 80 points was 32. And so, just forget about all the capabilities of Spartan Forge, like does it work in a Western state? It really doesn't. They have a couple Western waypoints on the app, but I couldn't get some of the features. I couldn't get it to download a map for me. And it doesn't it's very whitetail centric. It has an ag layer, a trail layer, and contours, but I mean, I couldn't even get the ag layer, those layers to work for me. There's no 3D mapping. There's one topo. There's no Western hunt units or Western hunt zones if you wanted to use it out west. So again, it doesn't have versatility there. And then again, it's very, the historical weather that's pulled into the trail cam pick on your journal. I think it's a really neat feature. The historical windrows, excuse me, also a great feature. But it just, if I were to spend $29 with HuntStand, for example, or $34 with BaseMap, I would spend less money and get way more layers and way more tools than I would get with Spartan Forge. And so, I'm not trying to be hypercritical. I'm just, again, trying to compare this platform with what else is out there in the marketplace for us consumers. And it just doesn't stack up. It just doesn't have the depth and breadth of the other products. Coming in at number 5 is GoHunt. And it's sort of a similar story. GoHunt is $50. It was specifically designed for the Western hunter. You can see that. It's obvious. They are out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and that's what they do. They do a lot of Western hunting. They have a gear shop, and they have the Insider, and it's a great resource. But when they rolled out that they had 50 states for $50, I thought, okay, well, maybe this is something that I should check out. Maybe there is an Eastern focus. And obviously, it would make sense. They are catering to, and they want to cater to people that are in Pennsylvania and Ohio and New York and Kentucky that are hunting in the West, that they would try to create a tool that maybe works in both scenarios for hunting in the East and West. But that's just not the case. There's no weather or wind related data, barometric pressure, no moon phase, and these are all things that whitetail hunters geek out about. There's no stand reservations or anything that some of the other applications offer. They have a really great terrain analysis tool that's unique. They have a really nice motor vehicle use map that's very detailed. That's really nice. But they have one topo layer. And so really for $50, there's just, and I don't know if I shared this, their value rating got a 5, and their versatility rating got a 5, and their final score was 53. And so, it just isn't there yet. I'm not saying that will never be there, but like Spartan Forge, those two apps could, shock everyone by some new layering and new tools and some other things that put them in with the bigger platforms. So coming in at number 4 is BaseMap, and I'll start with the ratings this time so I don't forget it. The value rating for BaseMap at $34.99 is 7. The versatility rating is an 8, and the final score is a 55. And so, BaseMap is really, it's funny. They have a really slick logo. It's black with neon green. They've hired the bone collector guys to promote their product. And really, when you peel the layers back, BaseMap is as stripped down as a hunting app as you can get. Now, is it versatile enough for me to use here in the East and in the West? Absolutely. It has all sorts of topo layers. It has wind data. It has waypoints that I can use in both scenarios. It has a lot of, it has 3D mapping on the phone. It doesn't have it on the desktop, which I think is kind of odd. It has some newer tools for long range targeting and remote markers and some other things. So it's a great tool. It doesn't set itself up in the top 3 though, and so that's where it ends at number 4. So let's go to there's a tie at number 2 and 3, and I'm going to break that tie with my opinion. So coming in at number 3 is HuntStand. The value rating for HuntStand is a 9. It's a $29 app, and the tools and the layers are just outstanding. I love the monthly satellite imagery and how you can use that if you're hunting a western state and trying to find a water source, or in an eastern state if you're looking at certain features of terrain. It's just a really nice tool. The value rating again is a 9. The versatility rating is a 5. Unfortunately, there are just some holes in their game. Their total score is a 64 out of 80, which is a really great score. And so, what I'll say is that they need a wider selection of waypoints. Their waypoints are very whitetail centric. If you download a map on HuntStand, it's just like a flat picture of a map. And I need, when I hunt out west, I need something that's more dynamic than just a static piece of a picture of a map. And the layering system for the western hunt units and hunt zones is not effective, and it's a little bit like that map. That downloadable map on your phone is not effective. Neither is, in my opinion, the layering and the hunt zone for western states It's just not effective. You have to put your finger on the area that you want to hunt, and it'll tell you to pick from, the type of species, and then it'll tell you what zone it is. And so ultimately, HuntStand comes in third, although it tied for sort of second place. At number 2 is OnX, and OnX for a value rating scored a 7, for a versatility rating scored a 9, and for a total score of 64 out of 80. And I didn't want OnX to do well, but they did. They're priced at $99, and over the past few years, they've tried to pull in other partners to add value to to the elite membership where you get all 50 states, instead of dropping their price. And so they brought in Deercast and Hunt and Fool and Top Rut and other partnerships, so that for the $99 that you spend, it gives it more value. And so there's not a whole lot of holes in OnX. It's just they cost more, but when you look at the layers and tools that they provide, it's really incredibly robust. And I think the biggest thing that they need to do going forward is the organization of those tools and the education of the consumer, so that they know that for $99 that they're getting this value. So let's pivot to the number 1 app. This really surprised me coming in. HuntWise has a value rating of an 8, a versatility rating of a 9, and a total score of 69 out of possible 80. HuntWise, again, was a late addition. They have a whitetail antler for their logo. And when I saw them, I thought, oh, it's another whitetail app. I'll include them into this evaluation. And I think in some ways they are a little bit whitetail centric. And when I saw that they were out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, I thought, oh, they're definitely going to be whitetail centric. HuntCast is their primary tool, and I think it was designed originally for whitetail movement, to sort of predict whitetail movement. But they have it for a bunch of different species, including elk and mule deer and bear. And I would really be curious to know, how those predictive models are different for each species. But some of the things that really jumped out. The 3D mapping tool is pretty innovative. The beta on your phone, the downloadable map application was solid. The HuntCast tool, even though I don't really care about predictive models. It has all of the weather information that you could ever want, and it comes in at $59.99, and so it's $40 less than OnX, and it has as much, if not more, than OnX in terms of tools, layers, and features. It does have Western waypoints. It has 3D mapping on the desktop, and as I mentioned, on the phone. It also has many different types of topo. So there's really not a lot of holes in the HuntWise game, and so that's why it won this evaluation. And so my hat goes off to HuntWise, and I hope that they are able to spread the word more, because, like I said, they barely made it into this evaluation, and I would have totally missed the boat here if I didn't include them. So thank you all for watching this. I hope this was of value to you. If you feel like I missed something, again, leave constructive feedback. Nasty words and all that stuff will get you blocked or whatever. So just give me some constructive feedback, or some things that you would like for me to review in the future in this capacity. I know this isn't everybody's cup of tea, because I know it's kind of long content, but this is how I operate, and I want to be fully transparent, and I want to share a lot of information for you so that you can make educated decisions on the other end. So be safe, everybody. Good luck in your next hunting season, and look forward to connecting down the road. All the best.